Hey everybody, I'm Sierra.
And I'm Ben.
And welcome back to another episode of The Unsolved Couple, where every week Ben and I recap one of your original gateway drugs into true crime.
Unsolved Mysteries. I'm ready.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's go. Hit record.
We've been recording for 1:07 now.
All right.
How's your week, love?
My week's been good. How was your week?
It's been a good week. We had some head colds passed around the house a little bit. We're getting ready to go into an insanely busy upcoming week. We're still not caught up on the podcast.
No.
Mm-mm.
We're coming into the holidays. How do you feel about that?
Well, I love it. It'll be a little bit less stressful after by next Monday, things will have kind of, at least for some of the bigger things, would have calmed down, which will be nice. But no, I'm excited. Thanksgiving's not too far away. You and I actually both last night were talking just about, we love Thanksgiving food.
I do. I'm very excited.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to share any news with our friends?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Oh my goodness. At some point, Ben will decide to share his exciting change of pace that he has underway. But I'll let him share that, I guess, when he's ready.
Do you have anything you'd like to share?
I had a great weekend. Fun Friday. I had to get up a little earlier than I wanted to on Friday.
You did.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay.
And I was kind of in a mood by the middle of the afternoon because it is middle of November and it was 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And we were at an outdoor event. Yeah. And so it was hot. It just felt like it's November, but today's the coolest day we've had. We skipped the 70s, apparently. We went from 90s, and now for the next 10 days, it's like in the 60s.
Hey, I'll take it.
At this point, I will take anything.
Which, speaking of Thanksgiving, if you guys haven't gone to Firehouse Subs and had their Thanksgiving sub, delicious.
Hot take.
Yeah.
It was okay. It wasn't amazing.
I'm offended.
I've had better ones. Caputo's does a better job. And then there's a little tiny deli in Salt Lake City that does a better job.
Stop it. It was delicious. Stop what you're doing. Go get it.
Not sponsored. But
No.
Firehouse, hey, if you'd like to sponsor us. Actually, just at checkout, just yell discount code unsolved couple and see if they give you free gravy with it.
What did you think of this episode?
It was good. Our two main stories are really intriguing. The other two stories are throwaways, in my opinion.
Both of mine were a lot to research.
Really?
I spent a lot of time on this one.
We get true crime daddy in the house today.
No. It's just gonna be.
Ben has opinions already.
Rabbit holes, and then I was annoyed.
Annoyed that you were spending so much time doing it.
I was really annoyed of how much time I spent.
Okay, well, do you want me to go first, and then you tell the history one?
Sure, and we'll end with our.
We'll end with
UFO.
Yeah, we'll end with a UFO story. Mm-hmm.
All right, take us away.
Okay, we are recapping season 3, episode 18. But as always, before we dive in, don't forget to follow the show wherever you're listening. And if you enjoy what we're doing, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people find the podcast and then allows us to keep bringing you more of the mysterious cases that you guys love. All right. Today's story, the first one I'm going to share with you, is about a woman named Cindy James. And then just real quick before we get into this one, we don't do this very often. This story does include some discussion of violence, stalking, psychology, distress, death, potential self-harm, and some of the details about this are still to this day heavily debated. So, trigger warning if none of those things are appealing to you, or there's listeners in or around that you don't want to hear some of these things, that would be a good time to skip forward to the next story. But my goal here isn't to also diagnose or point fingers, it's just simply walk through and what's been reported. But I'm going to encourage everyone at the end of this to form your own thoughts, because this is a very odd and heavy case with several possibilities.
It's really weird.
It is very weird. And when I started looking into it more, there is a lot left out of unsolved mysteries and still a lot of theories thrown around that don't have any evidence. So today's case is honestly one of the more bizarre and polarizing things we've covered on Unsolved Mysteries. It's a story that leaves people very divided. Was Cindy James terrorized for 7 years by an unknown stalker, or was she staging these terrifying attacks herself? So that's the question that we're going to kind of walk through with Unsolved Mysteries. So we'll start where they did. On June 8th, 1989, in the quiet suburbs of Richmond, just outside Vancouver, British Columbia, was shaken when a body was discovered in the yard of an abandoned house. And they, right up from the top, show us pictures of even the corpse, which I thought was a little aggressive for Unsolved Mysteries. The victim was a 44-year-old woman named Cindy James, who was working as a nurse at the time. She had been drugged, strangled, and her hands and feet were tightly bound behind her back, which would lead most people to believe that she had been murdered. But oddly or incredibly, the RCMP, or the Royal Mountain Police, said that her death was an accident or possibly suicide. They did not believe that murder entered the equation. And that starts to stun everyone that knew Cindy personally, because for the past 7 years, she had been reporting a terrifying and escalating pattern of harassment. More than 100 incidents were reported to the police per Cindy. 5 of them included physical violence, and dozens more included threats, vandalism, and stalking. It all started back in 1982, just a few months after Cindy separated from her husband, who I found out his name was Dr. Roy Makepeace. He was a psychologist. She started receiving strange phone calls, and her parents are interviewed, and they tell us that it was weird phone calls. It was whispering, it was silence, it was raspy voices. And she told her mother that she didn't recognize the voice, but she was clearly frightened. And her father felt that Cindy was withholding information and that she was withholding something important. Over the next few months, things escalated. Cindy reports prowlers outside her home at night. Her porch lights were smashed in. Her phone lines were cut. Bizarre, random style notes appeared on her doorstep. All of them, like, remember the old movie style ransom notes that are like cut out of magazines?
Yeah.
Yeah. A dead cat was left in her yard, and her dog was even attacked and nearly strangled to death.
That makes sense.
Yeah. This wasn't just a one-time thing. This went on for years. But oddly, Cindy wouldn't give the police like a solid name. She would tell them that she had suspicions, and she was vague in her details. So officers began to question whether these incidences were real or possibly staged. I think they're valid in those concerns if you're not.
Well, that's the thing, is why are you reporting it to police but then refusing to give information?
Yeah. A valid question. I can't answer it for you because we don't know. In January of 1983, Cindy's friend Agnes stopped by the house. When she didn't get an answer at the front door, she walked around towards the back of the property and found Cindy crouched outside with a nylon stocking pulled tightly around her neck. Cindy said that she had gone into the garage when someone grabbed her from behind and all she saw was white sneakers. So, her friend, obviously terrified, once again reports it to the police, and this just raises more questions. So, Cindy then goes on to change her name, her last name, move to a new house, painted her vehicle, and hired a private investigator. She was doing everything that she could to disappear from who was targeting her. Those all seem like smart moves if you're being harassed by somebody, to try to shake them off your tail. I mean, she still worked at the same place, so.
Yeah.
So.
I guess you're going to hire a private investigator, but you're then not going to tell the police all the details.
Yeah, and I don't know if then the investigator became like the middleman between the police and her. I don't know. So the private investigator did mention that he's also interviewed on Unsolved Mysteries. He tells us that Cindy was hesitant. She was evasive. She was vague to the point where she agreed to take a polygraph and she failed because it didn't say that she was deceitful. It was inconclusive, I guess, not failed, because it was clear that she was withholding information. Yeah. Cindy's mother later explained that Cindy had been threatened. Her attacker had told her that if she talked to the police, her sister and her mother's would also be roped into this sort of stalking and harassment. So fast forward to January 30th, 1984. Her private investigator heard some strange sounds coming through a two-way radio he had given her. So he rushes over to her home, looks through the window, and sees Cindy lying unconscious on her floor. He breaks the door down and finds a paring knife pinned through her hand and stabbed into the carpet, with a note attached to the knife as well. When she was revived, she said that she remembered a man entering her gate, being struck on the head, and feeling a needle go into her arm. But again, no fingerprints, no suspects, no physical evidence of anyone else was tied to the scene. By this point, the police had spent, which I thought this was insane, but I guess it's gone over for several years. Unsolved Mysteries tells us that the Canadian police have spent more than $1 million of assets investigating Cindy's reports.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot of money.
And time.
And time, yeah.
With no leads.
Even at one point, placing her house under 24-hour surveillance. On multiple occasions, they did this. And when they did that,
nothing
happened. At one point, there was 14 officers assigned to watch her 24/7. Yeah. During those times, 0 things happened. But almost within moments of the surveillance ending, the incidents would start right back up again. Reporters, there's a reporter interviewed. I don't care for the guy.
None of the police are interviewed.
Technically, none of the police are. True.
There's just the reporter guy.
And he's it's hard because I believe the victims always at first. And I'm not going to get into my personal thoughts on this because there's so much to the Unsolved Mysteries left out. But the way that the reporter is talking about this is so flippant and arrogant. And it just comes off very callous and cold. I don't know. I didn't care for his attitude. So The police at this point, their kind of mindset starts shifting, which, whether for good or for fair or not, it's really hard once law enforcement starts to shift their mindset towards if Cindy was being stalked and their mind shift was shifting, it gets very complicated to then try to get it to ever shift back. It's hard. And I'm not in law enforcement. I'm not an investigator to stay like neutral the whole time. But at this point, I just kept thinking, I was watching this. I'm like, Occam's razor would be, the theory is that the most likely scenario is probably the truth. The police can't find anything to go on.
Well, you gotta think like as an investigator, your job is to investigate and to
Follow the facts.
follow the facts until you close every avenue.
Mm-hmm.
It it appears to them, and from what they're saying, they have put in a true, honest effort.
Yeah.
And it appears that to them, they're like, listen, we're now running out of possibilities of what this could be. And all of that then led them to this possibility.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they're right. What I'm saying
But they
is,
weren't ever able to eliminate her as the
yes,
source.
and that's what I'm saying is that
Yeah.
now, with all the time, the effort, the resources they have dedicated and investigated, it appears that they thought the evidence led them to say, listen, this isn't what it appears to be.
Mm-hmm.
It appears that this is self-induced.
Yeah.
At least that's what Unsolved Mysteries is saying that
Yeah.
they're doing. I don't know. I didn't do any research on this.
Yeah.
So I'm only going off of what Unsolved Mysteries.
So, yeah, and that's the thing. I couldn't share, obviously, all 100 reported incidences. They weren't shared on Unsolved Mysteries. I'm
No,
only
just
sharing the ones with you that they did. I found multiple other incidences in my side research. I'm going to link all of that below for everybody to do their own research as well. In December of 1985, Cindy was found dazed and half conscious in a ditch 6 miles from her home. She was wearing a man's boot and glove. Neither belonged to her. She had cuts, bruises. Hypothermia was like on the verge of setting in. And once again, a black nylon stocking knotted tightly around her neck. And she said she had no memory of what had happened. So her friends, Agnes and Tom, started staying with her for protection. One night they woke up to loud noises and discovered Cindy's basement was on fire and the phone lines had been cut. When Tom ran outside for help, he claims he saw a man standing at the curb and yelled at him to call the fire department, and the man ran away. Police, however,
would you have to run away to call the police, the fire department?
Fair point. There's no cell phones. But the police, once again, aren't buying this story. They said that there was no disturbed fingerprints and that the window sill down heading into the basement that was open had dust and cobwebs all over it there was no fingerprints in the dust, nothing had been disturbed. Okay, so they questioned why Cindy, and that was the other thing. Cindy claimed that she hadn't been home because she was out walking her dog alone at 3 a.m.
Which doesn't make any sense if you're being stalked and attacked constantly. Why are you going out in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
Is the question I think they're asking.
Yeah, because I'm also like, maybe 3 a.m. is when you think most people are probably asleep, and so maybe you feel even oddly like safer.
Yeah, maybe there is a reason. I don't know.
So this is starting to, whether this is self-induced or not, this is starting to take a big toll on Cindy's mental health. And her doctors actually commit her to a psychiatric hospital, believing that she had started to become potentially suicidal. Her therapist said that the constant disbelief from police is what part broke her down. If this is really happening and she is begging and screaming for help, she feels like she's losing her mind. Absolutely. No one believes her.
You feel helpless.
Yeah. And that, with being doubt, like on top of that, all of these traumatic things had happened to her were just too much. She spent 10 weeks before being released. After being released, it was the
That's a
first time.
long
That's a
time.
long time. She told her father that she did believe she knew who the stalker was and that she was just trying to get proof because at this point, no one believed her. And she needed to hand this over to the police on a silver platter. So,
You could have told them in the beginning.
yeah, I know. That's the biggest frustration with this is to be saying this is happening to me, but not giving enough information. But then saying I know who's doing it, but then not
But then not
sharing
really.
that. So there was another attack. This one wasn't reported on Unsolved Mysteries, I found, but it happened right before her disappearance. So I plugged it in here. This is side research said. So Cindy was actually attacked in her carport at one point. She was found unconscious, partially undressed, hogtied with a nylon stocking. Duct tape was pressed over her nose and mouth, and she had actually slipped into a coma. She did survive, clearly. And from that, on my side of research, they did do like a full forensic sweep of her body. And they were able to remove 2 unidentified pubic hairs from her body. That's the evidence that they were able to pull off of her.
Okay.
Yeah. So, May 25th, 1989, the day Cindy disappears. That same day, her car is found at a shopping plaza parking lot. Groceries inside the car, a wrapped gift on the seat, blood on the driver's door, and her wallet scattered underneath the car. 2 weeks later, her body was discovered abandoned outside a house about a kilometer away. Her body was found bound, strangled, nylon stocking, hands and feet tied. But the autopsy revealed something unexpected. Cindy had actually died from an overdose of morphine and barbiturates. And they said that in my side research, there was like 60 something sleeping pills, equivalent of like sleeping pills in her stomach. Police ruled it a suicide. Her family said that that was impossible as there was no syringes or bottles at the scene, and that they insisted that she couldn't have tied herself up after injecting herself with that amount of drugs. And knot specialists reenacted the bindings and said that it could be done in about 3 minutes, but he was an expert in knot tying. So the police used that as their biggest theory, is this expert's opinion on that you could do knots that quickly. So not too much later, the coroner switches his ruling. Instead of it being ruled as a death or as a suicide or a murder, he actually put it, and not even as accidental, he named it as death by an unknown event, which I don't think I've ever seen. Have you?
No, I have no idea.
So that's kind of where Unsolved Mystery leaves us.
All right.
All right, here's your update. Unsolved.
Figured.
Yeah.
Well, it's unsolved in the fact if it's unsolved by the family, but it's not unsolved by the police.
Kind of. The family believes that she was murdered, but they have nothing really more outside of that. They just don't see how. And you guys, this woman was frail and tiny. It was a small woman. So this is where I'm going to say, the more I dug into the case, the more complicated this actually was. I can see, honestly, why Unsolved Mysteries just kind of gave us the briefest of overviews. Here's some things I found outside of my research. On the night that Cindy disappeared, she went to the bank around 9 p.m. because we don't even get a timeline of like her last day, or excuse me, 8 p.m., and deposited her paycheck. She had plans that night with her friends for dinner, the Woodcoxes, the ones who had been coming around and staying with her. They arrived at her home around 9 p.m. and find both Cindy and the car missing. Immediately alarmed, because they were aware of what was going on, they kind of did their own like look around for her. They drove around. They were actually the one that found her car and reported it to police. It wasn't just found abandoned in that, like in the morning. I also found some different explanations on several of the attacks mentioned on the episode. The first attack reportedly in the stairwell of her home. In the reenactment, it's reported that it looks like it's in the backyard, but like it wasn't necessarily. It was like in the walkway between her garage and her door, which I think were her inside of her house, which were actually attached. When she actually reported this to police, and I do not know why Unsolved Mysteries left this out, she said that she knew the man who attacked her. He had been in her backyard a few months earlier, claiming he was looking for someone named Jim Bob and had an envelope with cash in it. And then when she said no one by that name lives here, he asked her if she would be willing to exchange sex for the money he had in his hand.
Okay. Still doesn't make any sense.
My point exactly.
But here's my question. She disappeared for 2 weeks. Is that what you said? Really?
I'm recapping. I'm giving you the background information on the first incident.
I know. I understand that. I'm asking. She disappeared, and then her body showed up 2 weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
How long had she been ruled dead when her body was?
They never released that information because that was actually one of the things that I tried to figure out as well.
All right.
Because I did link a news article that went into great description, including like smells and what a body looked like. According to that, what I read in that news article, which I don't think would fly today, the body had been there for a long time.
Okay.
So, but that's again just based on the description of the guy that wrote the article, who was very aggressive with his words. It was pretty hard to read. Okay. So, the second incident inside her home, which was the one with the knife through her hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. When she told the police that happened, she said that she was grabbed from behind. No, excuse me. It began when she noticed a man entering once again through the back gate of her home, entered into her house, struck her on the back of the head, and injected her with something. And then at one point, she heard up to 3 different voices inside her home, that there were 2 people in the kitchen and 1 person that held her down and injected her. So, again. Okay. Then there was an attack that Unsolved Mysteries didn't share, but I thought it was important. She claims that she was attacked while she was at a park walking her dog. There was a couple in a van that pulled over and asked her for directions, then grabbed her by her neck and pulled her into the vehicle. Once inside, she reported 3 additional people inside the van holding her down and injecting her tight while wrapping a tight stalking around her neck. This incident she was able to escape from and run to a neighboring house near the park.
But wouldn't she be able to say it's the same person? And if it's not,
now
why are there so many people in the world that are stalking and attacking this lady over years?
Yep. So then the other incident that overlaps with Unsolved Mystery, when she was found in the ditch, she actually left for work on her lunch break and never returned that day. Her car was found nearby with the keys tossed underneath the vehicle. She was discovered by a biker, someone like not a motorcycle, but like a pedal bike, suffering from hypothermia, slurred speech. Once she was at the hospital, she did tell doctors that she had taken diazepam, which is a benzo for anxiety and depression earlier, that she had taken a couple of diazepam earlier in the day. Which diazepam, if overdosed, can cause like memory loss and all of these other things. So those are the things that I found about the attacks. What also was not mentioned on Unsolved Mysteries is that the house fire was actually the second time that had happened to her. The first house she lived in while she was only separated from her husband, once again in the basement, a fire was started and it was ruled to be arson. Had 6 different starting points, and believed that 6 different starting points within the bathroom of the basement, someone had used toilet paper and some sort of ignition source to start a fire. The police believed that she had done it herself, but didn't have enough evidence to charge her with arson.
All right.
Okay. Once the divorce was finalized, the second house was set on fire. She told the police at least the first incident that she did believe that her ex-husband was responsible for some of this behavior. And here's where things get even more messy, complicated, and confusing.
Okay.
It's hard to wrap this up for me. Like, because the truth is, every direction I look in this case, there is red flags, red herrings, missing pieces, inaccurate information. And to be completely honest with all of you guys, this is one of the few cases that after going through everything, I don't know how to feel about this.
No.
My heart truly breaks for this woman. She survived. There was on an inquest found that her husband had been physically abusive during the time of their marriage. She clearly struggled with some major mental health issues. And she lived this life, she lived for years in fear, whether legitimate fear or not. She seemed to think something was happening. And could she have staged some of these incidences? Yeah, I can see how that theory has been put forward, and I can see how police decided that's where they needed to go for that. Could she have genuinely been targeted and disbelieved at every turn? Also possible. Like this, I don't have an answer for anybody on this. Like there is no, I
That's
feel
why
like
it's still
yeah.
unsolved. I mean,
And that's the thing that's hard. You can look at, I read several articles that are very clearly like that Cindy was undiagnosed with Munchausen. So she was deliberately self-harming and doing all these things to her for...
Yeah, but that's obviously someone's gonna say that to explain why she would have done that to herself. But
And then there's several podcasts and deep dives that have way more information that show that there was evidence that possibly her ex-husband, who was a psychiatrist, knew how to sort of manipulate her already fragile mental health and might have actually coerced this behavior or encouraged this behavior, leading to like this mental sort of torture with his knowledge that he had.
yeah, but where's the evidence?
Again, yeah. So instead of trying for me to like wrap this up in a pretty bow, I'm going to just link a handful of sources in the notes below, articles, deep dives, other podcasts with tons of information, and allow all of our listeners to go out there and look for additional details and find your own, do your own dive, and then let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear back what people think really what happened to Cindy James. I feel terrible for her.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a very baffling
I mean,
case.
I'm asking questions. I'm in the same boat. I have zero opinions, 100%. I'm
Yeah.
not saying one way or the other because one, I didn't do the research. I didn't dive deep into this. I have a lot of questions. There's a lot of things that don't make sense, but that doesn't mean that it's one way or the other.
Yeah.
I have no idea. So
Yeah. When I heard that
either way, it's a tragedy because
yeah.
she's dead,
Mm-hmm.
and that sucks.
It died in a brutal, horrible way.
So
Yeah.
and it's unfortunate that there aren't answers.
Yeah. So, okay. Now on that sad story, do you have one you want to tell us?
All right. We got another history one, but I do love history stuff, but this is getting a little old. So we got the story of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Do you know much about Butch Cassidy
Okay.
and the Sundance Kid?
You guys, straight up, I'm going to tell you this. I am just learning this week while watching this. I have always heard it as Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids, and I thought this was like a gang of people that called themselves the Sundance Kids. I thought it was like Butch Cassidy was like Peter Pan, and the
Peter Pan.
Sundance Kids were the Lost Boys. Like Butch Cassidy was like the leader, and the Sundance Kids was this gang of like maybe younger cowboys that were following him around, and he was like, I literally only just learned that this is two people, and the Sundance Kid is one person, and Butch
Yeah.
Cassidy is one person. But yeah, I always thought it as Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids,
No, it's not.
which would be a great name for a band.
No. Same thing. So
That's all I know about them.
when it comes to this stuff, I'm going back to what I have said before. There's that podcast that I listened to, and I had it was springtime when I was listening to this because me and my son were listening to it while we were waiting at our daughter's ballet recital. And me and him were listening to parts of this, so I have listened to this part about Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, but we're not going to get into the history. I'll get in a little bit. They were outlaws. They ran the gang known as the Wild Bunch.
So there was a gang.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it was Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid,
And multiple others.
and what was the name of the gang?
They called themselves the Wild Bunch.
The Wild Bunch.
Multiple others part of it. Doesn't matter. That's not part of the story.
Okay.
So Butch Cassidy in history, as we know, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid who died in a shootout in Bolivia in 1908.
Bolivia?
Bolivia. South America.
Okay.
So we get Robert Stack telling us that history as we know it might not be what we know. That not too long after they would supposedly died in a shootout, there was a man by the name of William Phillips who just shows up in Spokane, Washington, and in 1910 starts a machine shop and becomes very successful. But according to historians, we get a historian, actually not historians, James Dillendry. He's a writer. Of course, all these stories are brought to us by writers who wrote books. He tells us that there's 0 records of William Phillips even existing before 1908. The only record of William Phillips was a marriage certificate from May 14th, 1908. So supposedly William Phillips he shows up, starts this machine shop, and then stories in the 1920s start coming out that William Phillips was Butch Cassidy. So, is it possible? William Stack tells us. And so let me just, I'll get to that later. All right. So how is this possible? is what Robert Stack tells us. So when Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid were killed, they in Bolivia in a shootout, they were supposedly identified by the man named Percy Siebert. And he supposedly worked with the Outlaws at a mine in Bolivia. And he's the one that identified them at the time after they were killed.
Okay.
So we get the writer, Larry Pointer, and he is a key figure.
He says, I'm going to point something out to you.
And I wrote down his quote, okay?
Okay.
This is where this rumor starts.
I can't believe you didn't laugh at my joke.
I didn't hear your joke.
That he was going to point something out to us?
Yeah, there you go. Good job. All right, Larry Pointer says this. He says, I believe that Percy, so Percy was the man that identified them as the dead people in the shootout. Says, I believe that Percy told the story of Butch and the Sundance Kid's death in Bolivia to pay back what he felt was a debt of loyalty and friendship to allow these outlaws to begin a life under amnesty without a past. So this theory is started from a writer who believes this guy, out of loyalty to them, misidentified them intentionally.
Okay.
But he gives zero proof.
Just like
that is
it would
true.
be a good thing for a
He
friend
just
to do.
makes this assumption, and because from this assumption, we can concoct this massive story that they survived the shootout and they came back to the U.S. But we have proof that this might be possible. So he's convinced, Pointer is convinced, that William Phillips is Butch Cassidy. So supposedly, here's the proof we have. Okay. Phillips, I guess he starts this machine shop in Spokane and decides, you know what? I don't want to stay here and run my successful machine shop. I want to go camping and live out in Wyoming, just out in the
desert? Or I
Yeah.
mean, it's not the desert there. It's the
In the
mountains.
wilderness,
Yeah.
you know?
Wyoming's no joke in the wintertime.
Yeah, so Phillips goes to Wyoming in 1933. And then we get that other writer, James Dolantree, and he says, listen, I talked to a guy who went with Phillips out there, and he told stories. And they met up with a bunch of old timers and a bunch of guys, and they all swore that Phillips was Butch Cassidy, and they all knew Butch Cassidy. So they all told stories. And because these old timers told stories, it has to be true, right?
Mm-hmm.
That Phillips is just Butch Cassidy.
Yeah, tall tales are always real.
Yeah. We do get one guy, Dan Buck, who he's like a historian writer. He's like, nah, I don't believe this.
Yeah.
I don't believe that William Phillips was Butch Cassidy. But in Wyoming, while he's out there just camping for some reason for a long time, he meets up with a lady named Mary Boyd Rhodes. And in 1934, Mary goes with her granddaughter, Ione Manning, who's 16 at the time. And they supposedly ride horseback out to this campsite where William Phillips is staying. And this granddaughter tells the story that her grandmother got off her horse and they embraced and they were like, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. They knew each other. And that she'd called him Leroy George Parker, which is Butch Cassidy's original name.
Legal name or yeah.
So, and that her grandmother admitted to her that she knew him as George Parker and they were childhood sweethearts. And supposedly in 1937, Phillips dies, but before he dies, he sends her grandmother, Mary, a ring. And in the ring, it says George C. and Mary R. So, it's all the proof you need, right?
Yep.
All right. What else proof do we have that
Tell me.
Phillips is that? Supposedly, Phillips wrote a manuscript entitled A Bandit's uh, Invincible? A Bandit Invincible, the story of Butch Cassidy. And according to these historians, Pointer and all that, it had such details that only Butch Cassidy would know, even though no one verifies that the
I
details
was
are
going to say they
true.
said that. And I was like, but how do we know that these things that he's saying are actually factual?
He could have just made it up,
Yeah.
but it sounds so good. They say, oh, it had such detail, it had to be Butch Cassidy. And that supposedly Phillips had a revolver, and on the revolver it had Butch Cassidy's like stamp, which was like a double E. It looks like a box with a double E, and that was his brand, which technically he had. I did see that he had that brand that he would brand his cattle. He did try at one point to be like a rancher in Wyoming,
Okay.
and that was his brand supposedly. And Phillips had a revolver with that on it. Also, they took 5 letters, 4 of them which were known to be written by Butch Cassidy, 1 of them to be written by Phillips, and they asked a lady by the name of Sheila Lowe to look at them, who was a handwriting expert, and she compared them and says 100% they are the same person wrote it. They are identical.
Yeah, then they show us
Writing is
pictures and I don't see the correlation. Did you?
no.
No.
But she believes it. And then they show pictures, because I will say Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid are ones that we do have true pictures of.
Yes.
There's the famous picture of them in Dallas. There's 5 of them in like 1901, and they got a picture taken. And there's multiple other pictures of Butch Cassidy. And then they show a picture of William Phillips and Butch Cassidy, and supposedly they look familiar. They do not.
No.
Butch Cassidy has a very square jaw.
Yeah.
Phillips does not have that. I mean, it is extremely defined square jaw. But again, it's extremely early pictures, so how you can compare pictures,
Yeah.
I don't know. So we get Pointer back, the writer, and he says, I wrote this down, he believes without a doubt that William Phillips is Butch Cassidy, that he survived the shootout and returned to the U.S. and returned to Wyoming, which was their old stomping ground of where they robbed and did that stuff, and lived out his days till he died in 1937. So there you go.
What do you think?
Here, are you ready for your update?
Oh, yeah, update.
That's where Unsolved Mysteries.
Okay.
First off, before I give our update, this is what irritates me.
I know. Okay, let's hear it.
We have now supposedly Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid are still alive, according to Unsolved Mysteries and History. Billy the Kid. I've also read rumors that supposedly people don't think Jesse James died.
Okay.
Also, what was the Nazi one that they didn't?
Oh yeah, like his like right hand man guy.
Everything in history is wrong.
Well, and there's a whole Hitler thing about, and that wasn't on Unsolved Mysteries, but that was a terrible documentary that within seconds was like, how did this make the History Channel?
I don't. It's just we continue to take these figures and these stories in history, and then we say, and some writer comes forth and says, I don't think this happened. This is why, even though I have no evidence. So, all right, I did do some research.
Okay.
Technically, we cannot 100% prove. So in 1991, Dan Buck, who was the doubter in the first place, did go to Bolivia. They tried to find the spot of where they think Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid were buried. They did find remains. They tried to match it with DNA with family. Mind you, it is the early 90s.
Yeah.
And there was not positive identification. That doesn't mean that they didn't die. It just means that technically we don't know exactly where they were buried.
Yeah. It just means whoever they dug up wasn't them. Yeah.
Right? Mr. Pointer, the writer, now does not believe that William Phillips was.
He said he was for sure about it.
He said without a doubt.
Without
I will at least give him that he's willing to acknowledge. More research has come out. In about 2012, it was found that a man by the name of William Wilcox served in prison at the same exact time as Butch Cassidy. And if you look at the mugshot of him at that time, it is much more familiar with William Phillips.
Okay.
He actually now believes that guy just assumed the identity. He did know
for clout, for funsies.
He didn't know him. It's possible they ran together in their gang for a little bit. And he doesn't believe, but he still does believe that Butch Cassidy lived and came back to the U.S. He just doesn't believe. There's also many stories of family members of Butch Cassidy that have said he returned, that he was buried in a cabin here. The legend goes on, and there's endless amounts you could go down. But technically, we will never know.
Unsolved.
I don't think it's unsolved. It's solved. They died in a shootout in Bolivia.
Got it.
They went there. It was a fact that they went. They first went to Argentina.
Yeah, but his buddy did him a solid.
Then they had to move. They moved around. They had robbed a payroll, and that's why they ended up getting cornered there and getting in a shootout.
Got it.
So just accept, like, I understand that history, we might not be accurate every time, but I don't understand this need to completely rewrite history hundreds of years later. And then we just disprove everything people said at the time. Who would know better than us?
Yeah. I don't know, Ben.
I don't know. I wasn't there, but people that were there, that's the story we're telling. And now because I live 100 years later, some idiot decides, I don't want to believe that because I talked to some guy who talked to some guy, and I'm going to believe this stupid tale instead of actually the facts written 100 years ago.
I think people like to think that they are original in their ideas.
They're not.
I know.
They're not original. So stop.
Yeah. All right.
That's it. That's all I got.
You guys got been fired up. I know.
I've gone on
heard you every time.
Times.
Yeah.
So
if you're going to rewrite history, you have to bring solid facts to the table in order to do so.
What irritated me the most about this is that this guy is the one that circulates this story. And it was all because he just assumed that the guy that ID'd him he
made a really big assumption.
For no reason, with no evidence. And then from that assumption, he made up this massive tale.
Yeah. Just because he thought it would be a cool story. I was thinking, you want to write a story like that, write it, but don't change history.
What? Yeah, I mean, but sure, it would be crazy if Butch Cassidy did live and came back to the States. But you actually got to prove it. Not just come up with an assumption. All right, anyways, I'm going to stop.
Okay. So I've got a lost love story. We're going to blow through this because it's pretty quick. Okay. So once again, we hear a sad story, and these stories always break my heart. But Althena Smith is searching for her siblings, Richard, Mary, and Noreen. Their parents, who married as teenagers, were seldom around in this household.
Dude, this is wild.
I know. So at the time, Althena is 5 years old and is in charge of her siblings.
At 5?
At 5. At the time, her brother was 4, Marty was 3, and Noreen was only 2 years old. She remembers on multiple occasions getting them up out of bed, making them chocolate milk and a single piece of toast. When their parents separated in 1960, Children's Services took them in and placed them into the foster care system. So in July of 1960, Althena and her younger siblings are actually all able to stay together and placed in the care of foster parents Frank and Marianne Wiley. For the first time, these kids had stable home. They had adults who cared for them, and life with the Wileys was simple, safe. They lived on a big farm. They did family chores together. They ran around and just seemed to really start feeling safe and were thriving. But December of 1962, the state made a decision that would unravel that entire safety net that had started to form. The children were returned to their father's custody. He had sought their custody back. He was granted it. The foster system is very big about the biggest goal is to always get children back with either the parents or some biological member of the family. Immediately, neglect starts to return. Althena, a child herself, was once again put in the position of raising her younger siblings, and the father was absent from the home. Neighbors eventually stepped in and called the police because they never saw adults in or around the home. But by this time, the kids were actually separated and placed into different foster houses. And instead of finding safe landings like the previous home that they had been in, Althena ends up in 2 abusive homes over the next 4 years. She's finally returned to Frank and Marianne, who are actually interviewed on Unsolved Mysteries, and loves them, but was angry and traumatized and confused and basically just wanted some family member to love her. So she gets this idea that her grandmother lived in Sand Springs, Oklahoma, but didn't have any address. So she saves up her money and runs away from the Wiley home and books a 300-mile or something Greyhound bus
I think they said 600.
600 miles to Oklahoma. And all she had was one memory of what the house looked like. So she knocks on a local church's door, and a priest. This girl is so lucky she didn't get into the wrong person's car, because the story could be a very different one that we are sharing.
Yeah.
He helps her, drives her around, shows her all different kinds of neighborhoods, tries to find the house that she described and she's trying to remember, and spends all day going door to door to door looking for this grandmother. They're never able to find the right house. So with nowhere else to go, the priest does the right thing and takes her to the police station. And she's been identified as a runaway and is sent back to her home state, but not back into the home of the Wileys. Instead, she was placed back into the foster care system, and for reasons that are unclear to not only Althena, but also to the Wileys, they wouldn't allow her to come back to their home.
That's weird.
I know. Years later, Althena did eventually locate her birth parents and reunite with them, but was unable to find her siblings. And that's kind of where Unsolved Mysteries leaves us. She's looking for her younger siblings, wants to know what happened to them. She hasn't seen them since they were children, and they had experienced terrible things together.
All right.
Update solved. Thanks to viewers' tips, Althena was reunited fairly quickly with all of her siblings, but the facts behind the reunion were kept secret from the broadcast, and the reunion was not permitted to be filmed. The emotional strain and emotional pain surrounding these siblings, they did not feel that they wanted to have this showcased when they reunited.
Yeah, I mean, clearly those kids had a tough.
Yeah, I tried to look up even to see today if, first off, Althena Smith is a pretty common name.
Yeah.
She's done a good job if she has, because it looks like she'd gotten married at some point. She changed her last name. I looked up that current last name to see if there was even any social media presence. There's no Reddit thread. There's no social media. There's no nothing. And so whoever this family was, it seems as if decided to remain pretty innocuous and off the grid. And I wish them all well. I hope every one of them was able to.
Yeah, I hope every one of them came out better than.
Found solid ground and were able to kind of, yeah. So, all right.
All right.
Are you ready for a UFO story?
It's not.
It's not.
Okay. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. Get out of here. All right, sorry. December 29th, 1980. We're going to get introduced to three individuals. Betty Cash, Vicky Landrum, and Vicky's grandson, Colby Landrum. Okay? They're driving along State Route 1485 near Dayton, Texas, not too far outside of Houston. Okay? As they're driving along, and mind you, Colby's 7 years old. Okay? They see a light in the sky. Like, what's that? Oh, I don't know. What is it?
They didn't.
Oh, it's
They didn't
crazy.
just see a regular light. This was extreme light.
Not yet.
Okay, sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah, come on. They see this light. They're like, oh man. They keep driving. And this light, it keeps getting closer and closer.
I'm gonna take a side quest here real quick and take a pain pill because you guys, I'm 40 and I hurt my back. I can barely move, and sitting in this chair for an hour is killing me. And I've been waiting till I'm done with my stories because Sierra on pain medication
Gets wild.
shouldn't be doing a podcast. So, Ben, tell us a story. I will be right back.
Okay. All right. So they notice this light and it gets closer and closer. And then all of a sudden, it's right above them. And it's right there in front by the road. So they stop. They have to. What is going on? What are you laughing at? Yeah, it's ridiculous. So they stop. They're on this road. There's this massive thing. And they say this diamond shaped aircraft comes down. And from the bottom of it, it is blowing massive flames from this diamond shaped craft. Okay. And it is extreme heat coming out of this thing to the point where what does Betty decide to do? Get out of her car. Because that seems like a really good idea.
Be that person.
So she gets out and she's looking and she's telling us that it is so intense. It's crazy. So she stands there for a while because that makes sense.
They said they slammed on their brakes and their hand imprint was imprinted on their like rubber dashboard. Sorry, I'm back.
Yeah, I know.
This would be terrifying, Ben.
So
If you and I were in the middle of nowhere, Arizona, and we saw that, you can't say that we wouldn't get out of the car and try to figure out what in the actual F is happening. Things that are supposed to not be there are there, and you can see them with your own eyes.
anyway, so this thing, so then Betty decides, okay, I've seen it enough outside of my car. I'm going to get back in my car. And she says it was so hot that she couldn't even touch the handle of her car.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
But somehow their car is just fine. It keeps running, even though it doesn't, according to one of her stories.
Do you not believe this story?
I have my doubts.
You're letting your biases show. You're supposed to be recapping the episode.
I have my doubts.
Shut the front door.
All right. Anyways, so she can't touch the handle, and it then lifts off. Moments later, helicopters come, and they say a bunch of them. According to Vicky, she counts 22 to 23 helicopters.
It's a lot of helicopters.
Not just regular helicopters, like double, she says the double propeller ones, which they later identify as Chinook helicopters, which are massive.
I know we saw one in the sky the other
helicopters.
day.
So supposedly 23 of these or more show up. Okay. So weird. They got spotlights, all that stuff. And then they go home. Okay.
Okay.
1 a.m. They say Colby wakes up. He is sick. He's complaining of a fever. He's burning up. Vicky says she goes in. She's checking on him. He's burning up. He's dying of thirst. His skin is red and blistery. And then Vicky becomes sick too the next day. She's not feeling well. She has like a sunburn type of rash on her. They then go and check on Betty, who Betty was the one that got out of the car. And she's extremely sick. She's losing hair and she has like blisters all over her body, is dying of thirst, very dehydrated, just is craving water. And she has a really high fever. So they don't go to the doctor right away, but they wait about 4 days. She's not getting better. They take Betty in, and she's admitted to the hospital and is in the hospital for supposedly a month. And the hospital says that they believe that she was what exposed to radiation. She has radiation sickness and that. So she loses a bunch of her hair and she has like
These are all symptoms of radiation poisoning.
yeah, absolutely. Supposedly has skin like blisters, scars from blisters on her skin and all of that and that. So she gets out and starts to get better. So they contact a man by the name of John Schuessler, who is a UFO investigator. He works for the Mutual UFO Network. He's a deputy director. He comes out and he
Sounds
yeah,
super
important. He comes out, he does an investigation. They show him the exact spot of where it happened. And he says there's like this burn mark on the road.
Yep.
But then supposedly a couple weeks later, some unmarked vehicles show up and tear up the road and put a new road there, according to him. And he talked to a bunch of people in the area, and they saw that UFO diamond-shaped thing in the sky too, and the helicopters. They even interview a police officer who was off duty. He was with his wife. He was driving in the area, and he said that night he did see a bunch of helicopters. He saw a helicopter. He heard it. There was a spotlight on him. Saw it, and then it flies off in the directions of what he thinks would have been the direction of where Vicky and all of them are at. So they've now suffered for months. As I said, this is right at the end of 1980. They start writing to their senators and different people in the government, say, hey, what happened? And so one of them gets them in touch with Bergstrom Air Force Base. And they go in and do an interview with Bergstrom. They tell the Air Force Base what had happened, what they saw. And even they say, and they show up with an overnight bag because they think they're going to go to the Air Force Base and the Air Force Base is going to treat them, because even months later, they say they're still suffering from symptoms
of radiation poisoning
of this stuff, and they want help. And they say even when they walk in, there's a map and there's a pin on the map of exactly where this thing had happened.
Okay.
So they think, oh, they already know. They know what's going on. So they get interviewed, and in the reenactment, you notice that they're like, well, we have no evidence that this ever happened. And we can't do anything for you. I don't know what you expect from us.
Yeah.
And they get all mad, like, you're supposed to help us. You're supposed to give us medical treatment. I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you. And so they supposedly submit a claim, and the government tells them a couple weeks later, no.
Denied.
So then 1982, they filed a lawsuit against the federal government, but that lawsuit was dismissed
by a federal judge.
Due to lack of evidence. So they are all still complaining years later that
These women clearly have radiation poisoning.
They are still complaining of lingering health concerns and problems. And this Betty was supposedly diagnosed with multiple forms of cancer.
Yeah.
And so they just want the truth. They want the government.
Watching this, I was getting fired up.
Admit and acknowledge what had happened, and to
And to do the right thing, it's not that hard, people.
So,
Okay.
all right, that's where Unsolved Mysteries. Leave
All right.
that.
I'm interested in stuff because I was ticked off watching this.
I bet you were.
I was.
So,
Well,
update.
I had two thoughts. First off, the shape and behavior and pattern of this kind of reminded me of the other UFO story that we had where it crash landed and they like showed up and everyone acted all weird and it was like nothing to see here, move along, remember? But they made no one came into, I guess those firefighter guys with the mustache came into close contact with them. None of them ever said anything about radiation poisoning.
No.
No. Okay, update, Ben.
Update. So, I've read multiple things. There's actually been a lot of investigations of this incident.
Really?
In the UFO community, there's a lot of people that do not believe the story. So, John Sussersler, there is reports. He's the one from the Mutual UFO Network that did the investigation. He supposedly has their medical records and will not show a soul these medical records. Supposedly, he says that he went to the space. The Texas Department of Health ran an investigation. When they came to him and said, okay, show us where this happened, he couldn't. He's like, actually, we don't know where it is. So that's kind of been debunked.
Okay.
There was no burning of the trees, like nothing. There is a lot of inconsistencies.
Okay.
I also found, and for 2 hours, I found the entire transcript of their interview at the Air Force Base. It has been released.
Really?
And I read the entire thing.
Is that what you did while I was taking a nap?
Yep. What they portray in Unsolved Mysteries is not correct.
Oh, I'm not surprised anymore. I'm like,
So the Air
wait,
Force
to uncover one of this, I'm slightly disappointed with Unsolved
Air Force
Mysteries.
Base was receptive. They listened.
Mm-hmm.
When they asked, like, what? So Vicky and Colby never went to a doctor. The only doctor Vicky ever went to was an eye doctor. And she says, well, I believe he's a good doctor. I would trust anything he says. Never went to a doctor.
They never spent
Betty?
a month. Betty, did she spend a month in the hospital?
She says she spent several weeks in the hospital. No medical records have ever been seen of that.
Why wouldn't you take your medical records with you to the Air Force Base?
And what is interesting is when they ask, so what what has happened? What did you suffer from this? She says that kind of like on the side, but then goes into other things. They do say, like, I've had diarrhea, I've had sickness, I've lost hair. She does say that she's had all these symptoms. And I'm not saying that that is not true. I have no idea. But it is very interesting that she doesn't hammer that home. And then Vicky's like, no. They ask, who did you call? Like, did you call the local authorities? No. They never called the police. The only person they ever called was that John Sussman, the UFO people. They never called authorities of what happened and reported it. The only people is they call him, and then months later, then they contact these. And then at the end, this is the most interesting. The Air Force says, okay, well, what would you like from us? And all they say is, well, we'd just like to know what happened. They didn't ask.
They never asked for like their medical bills to be covered or anything. So what was the lawsuit then?
Towards the end, one of them says, well, what about all of our medical stuff? They're like, well, what did you want? Like, what are you looking for? Well, we're trying to find answers of what happened, and we want answers of what we saw that night. And they're like, well, and the Air Force says, listen, we actually investigated this stuff up until 1969. We don't investigate this stuff anymore. NASA and outside agencies do. If you would like to contact them, he goes, and they pretty much say, the only reason this has happened is because a senator contacted us and told us to have you come in. We are more than happy to interview you and take down. And he says, I will send this up chain of command. I will send this to Washington.
I
if
guess
you'd
I just
like."
thought after this, watching this, within minutes, we realized that this wasn't a UFO, that this might have been some sort of weaponry testing that went awry. There's no evidence of that.
And then it got weird at the end because Vicky or Betty claimed that they went to something and saw a Chinook helicopter and talked to a pilot who was of the Texas National Guard and said, "Hey, we saw the helicopter." And he's like, "Yeah, we got called out for something like that." He's like, "Oh, you did? Was it this night?" And he's like, "Yeah." And they say, "So," and I know this is going to get confusing, but there is a point. So the military guys are like, "Oh, so you saw National Guard helicopters?" And they're like, "No." They say in their interview, "We saw the helicopters, and on the helicopters, it said United States Air Force." And they go, "So was it the National Guard or was it the military?" And they're like, and they couldn't quite answer the question. Here's my other question.
For me, the layperson, National Guard, military,
They asked,
to me, that seems all the same thing.
they said, "So what was the insignia on there?" Because the National Guard have an insignia of the Texas state.
Okay.
Did you see that? No, we didn't see that. We saw United States Air. Like, okay. And I understand that that might not be the nail in the coffin or anything.
Yeah.
My question is, how did you see the writing on a helicopter at night with spotlights?
Yeah, because if you are being spotlight, you're blind.
And if you've ever, coming from someone who has worked with helicopters a lot, trying to read something off the side of a helicopter, not easy. And trying to read it in the dark,
Yeah.
impossible.
Interesting.
Now, I think these people were sick. Supposedly, not supposedly,
Wasn't one of the doctors interviewed on?
he was her doctor from 1985 on. He didn't come until 5 years later. And he does say he believes that she was exposed to radiation. Betty died in 1998. Vicky died in 2007. Colby's supposedly still alive. Like I said, they've done a lot. If you want to dive deep into this,
There's a
many
lot.
stories and documentaries. And here's the thing: I'm not saying it.
I got a completely different vibe from that. I guess I was under the impression watching that to me at first I was like, holy crud, this is like a major UFO story. I can't believe I've not heard this before. And then with the sickness, I was like, oh, this is radiation poisoning. They must have, because this was what, the very end of the Cold War sort of thing?
It
Or
wasn't even that. The Cold War didn't end until the end of the 80s.
yeah. So I was like, maybe there was some testing and some sort of weapon device went off track and the military is trying to cover it up because they don't want people to know that they were tested. That to me seems way more plausible that the military is like, oh, nothing to see here, and messing around with radiation and stuff like that.
Like I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot out there. There's a lot out
It's
there on this.
weird for two old ladies to make up an insane story.
Yeah. Personally, if you ask my opinion, I do think they were probably exposed to something. And it probably was some government thing and they got sick. And unfortunately, I mean, we know that.
Yeah, the government is not I'm going to bet against them 9 times out of 10.
A UFO? No.
No, I don't think it was a UFO either.
I think it was something. I just, unfortunately, now this story it's gone so many different
I thought you brought up a good point, the car running, because radiation shouldn't have that disrupted the engine.
So that was my other thing.
Because there's a movie that I watched that made me have reoccurring nightmares, but I guess that was a nuclear bomb that went off that people's like watches all stopped and stuff.
In the interview at the Air Force Base, she says the car died. It shut off.
Oh.
And that the dash was melting. And so then they're kind of like, well, so you got it to restart? Yeah. Oh, kind of weird, if you ask me.
Could it have shut off from the heat?
Yeah. I don't know. I've never put my car in that situation, so I don't know how it would react. So I don't.
I don't know either.
Anyways, so it's an interesting story. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of differencing opinions, and personally, I 100% don't think it was a UFO.
No, I don't
But I
think it was
definitely think
either.
it's very possible that they came across some type of experiment from the government, and that is scary. If the government was experimenting stuff with radiation,
Wouldn't surprise me
nuclear
though.
stuff, and it's too bad. But
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Okay, well, you guys, that is season 3, episode 18. And this is the part of the episode where I ask Ben a silly question and we have some fun little chitty chat and banter time. If that's not your thing, please feel free to exit stage right. We'll see you again here next week. And for the rest of our friends who do like to stick around, Ben, I got a simple question for you because I'm in immense pain and I'm ready to put the heating pad back on my back. Do you have any favorite weird snack combinations?
Weird snack combinations.
Do you want me to go first with this one?
Sure.
Okay. Lately, I've been really into these things. They are, it's slices of like sharp white cheddar cheese with crispy dill, like very sour pickles. That my mouth is watering just talking about it. But there's something about it, like I accidentally, like I was at a event at my salon and they had charcuterie cups and I like was driving home eating it and I was hungry because it was like 1:30 in the afternoon. Shocking to know when I hadn't eaten anything for the day. I had been surviving solely on caffeine.
Shocking.
And so I was just trying to like put some food in my mouth and I accidentally popped in like a square piece of cheese and like a little like dill pickle, little mini one. And I was like, say less.
Say less.
I'm super into that. And I can't get enough of it now. I've got like all different kinds of like sharp cheddar cheeses in the thing and different kinds of pickles. And I like to pair them all together. That's my current one. Cheese and pickles seems kind of weird.
See, I'm not an explorer.
No, you're not.
I am a simple man.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep things simple. I don't like to, this might come as a shock to everybody. I don't really try new things on menus. I don't try mixing things and I don't look at things and go,
you guys, if Ben's not with me and I need to order him something, I can get him a chicken Caesar salad, a pepperoni pizza, or a chicken burrito without sour cream. Based on where we are and bring any 3 of those home, he's going to be happy as a clam.
Well, it's funny. So we're getting off topic, but that's okay.
Fine. That's the whole point of this part.
So a big thing happened last week. So Sierra and I went and celebrated and we went out to dinner. And I was texting with some of my friends and they were like, hey, because several of us had accomplished this thing and we were celebrating.
I love how much you're tiptoeing around your...
Yeah. So this week, I was talking to a friend of mine, David, and he goes, so where did you go? I said, we went out to Penelope's Pizza.
I love
I was
Penelope's
talking to Rick.
Pizza. Yeah.
I was talking to Rick about it. And he's like, dude, he was asking me. He's like, I've seen that place, but I haven't gone.
It's so good.
I think we talked about it earlier a while ago. And he goes, I've seen it. How is it?
Yeah, if you live in Tucson, really check out Penelope's Pizza.
Yeah, I said, it's really good. And he goes, oh, great. He said, what have you tried there? Because I want to go.
The pepperoni.
And I said, well, I haven't tried anything. I've only tried the pepperoni pizza.
Rick, text me if you want to know the
And that's what I said. I said, my wife's tried
every time I go, I try something different.
I said, and everything she's tried, she likes. He goes, but what have you had? I said, I've only had the pepperoni pizza. And he's like, well, then how do you know it's good? I was like, well, the pepperoni pizza is good.
It's very good.
That's the only thing I will eat there.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of different pizzas, weird ones. And you say they're all good.
They are all very good.
I will not try them.
Yeah.
So I am a very simple man. It doesn't matter what restaurant I go to. I look for the same things.
I know.
And I order them. And that's how I like my life. So when it comes to snacks,
Or just
keep 'em.
weird food combinations,
So the
things
only
you
thing
don't
I can
think
think
of.
of that I do that a lot of people might find a little strange is if I get a Hershey's bar.
I think you told us this story last week.
No.
Okay.
If I have a Hershey's bar, I don't like to just eat that. I will dip it in peanut butter.
You did tell us this last week when we were talking about or a couple weeks ago when we were talking about Halloween candy.
Oh, there you go. I tell you the same thing because I am a simple.
That's your weird food combo?
I told you I don't have weird food combos. I don't mix stuff.
I heard someone talking the other day, and I've been wanting to try this, but I have to buy it. They like to take Ruffles potato chips and dip it into cottage cheese and eat it.
That's disgusting.
That sounds amazing. I'm here for that. And my sister, this comes back to cottage cheese, likes to put cottage cheese, spoonfuls of it in her tomato soup.
That's disgusting too.
And I had a weird pizza one time in actually downtown Disney. They had a cantaloupe. They had pizza with cantaloupe on it. And here's the thing. I am the person that I love being married to Ben because he's going to order what he knows is good at the menu, which allows me to be a little risky in my choices. So I can try the house specialty or the weird thing that people say is really good. And if I hate it, Ben and I are in a marriage that we are allowed to share each other's food. It's not like, if I reach across and grab his fries, he's going to freak out about it. And so I can always take the risk and the gamble, which has paid off because I like exploring weird food.
Yeah, I know you do. Yeah. I don't. I just want to stick to what I know.
I know you do.
I will say the only thing is I told the kids about my ramen eggs thing today.
Yeah, I'd never heard of that.
I don't really eat that now, but I have in the past. Or if you take ramen, you cook it just enough where you can unfold the ramen. You pull it out, you put it in a skillet, and then if you beat a few eggs together and pour it on the ramen.
But the trick is you got to put the seasoning packet in the egg mixture. Yeah.
In the eggs, you pour eggs on the ramen, cook that, then flip the ramen, cook it so the eggs are obviously completely cooked. And then you can just like put the ramen and eggs on a plate and eat it. Put some salsa on there. It's really good. That's when I ate that when I was younger, when I was a poor.
Did you ever put ketchup on your macaroni and cheese?
No. I put ketchup on my, I guess I didn't realize this. I grew up putting ketchup on my grilled cheese sandwiches.
That was weird to me when we got married. I was like, what are you doing?
I love grilled cheese sandwiches and I dip it in ketchup, but I grew up that way. So
no, I'd never seen that in my life. But I also like putting ketchup on my mac and cheese, which weird. Could not be more like
that's gross,
disgusting American food right there. Like box mac and cheese with ketchup on it is so good.
That's gross.
All right, guys, before this pain pill kicks in and you guys get definitely way more Sierra than you bargained for, we will wrap this up and we will see you again here next week when Ben and I recap another episode of
Unsolved Mysteries.
Bye.